Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right spot if you are talking about empowering change as educators.
Hello, yes, I'm in the right spot. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. All right, let's get started. We can go to the next slide. All right. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Shalina Warren. I am a high school social studies teacher and law academy director in Washington, D.C. I would love to know a little bit more about you as I introduce myself a little more. So in the chat, if you could drop your name, your location, and also indicate which Black Lives Matter Week of Action demand you would champion as a policymaker in your school or school district. So your name, your location, and which of the four demands shown here on the slide would you champion in your school or school district? Recently, I received my doctorate from Johns Hopkins University in urban education, educational leadership, and my focus was on creating democratic classrooms using civic empowerment. So this all ties together for me. I feel like 2, 3, and 4 are the majority demands, but all four of them are so important. So I thank you. I'm sure you are championing that demand in your school or your school district because you are a policymaker as an educator in the building, in the district, or just caring for kids in general. Okay, Gallaudet, DC, welcome. And so we will go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, so um, I created this democracy action card that you see on the screen right here. It was developed through my doctoral studies at Johns Hopkins University. Um, it is a card that is easy for you to become an architect of justice and democracy at your school or school district. It's easy to modify as a template, and it emphasizes student choice and youth expertise while participating in democracy. It is not content specific. And so I really want to stress that enough because you can modify this and include it in your curriculum in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And it's basically to embed civic engagement and understanding within your school building, within your classroom, within your setting, whatever that setting may be. Let's see. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So this is my first time presenting this card to individuals other than a few people in my building that I've talked to. So I'm very excited to discuss this. So the Black Lives Matter at School Democracy Action Card is meant to inspire educators and students to make meaningful actions toward justice, engagement, and equality. As you can see at the top of the screen, there are 4 categories included in this template that I'm sharing with you. So educating for equity, it focuses on fostering awareness and understanding of social justice issues through culturally relevant teaching, critical thinking, and discussion. The second category is empowering student voice, which encourages youth to lead, advocate, and participate in their communities. The third category is building community connections, which strengthens ties between schools, families, and the broader community to promote collective action. And then the last category, number 4, is transforming through action, which inspires educators and students to take tangible steps toward change with real world impact. So when using this card in my building, I would allow my teachers to choose any 5 tasks to complete over a certain period. I would use this same format with my students. And as you can see on the screen, I use a Padlet to capture all of the tasks. So as you can see, the 4 categories, there are 4 tasks underneath each category that would provide opportunities for students or teachers to participate in democracy. So this workshop session introduces the democracy action cards to participants in hopes that you will reflect on your role in creating a more equitable, informed, and inclusive learning space in your school by tailoring the action cards for use by your students or teachers. This is kind of like a train the trainer event, if you indulge me just a little. Okay, and we will move to the next slide. All right, so here I want to model a few activities of the card with you. So if the Padlet is in the chat, you're going to click on the link in the chat for the Padlet because it is what I'm going to use to house all of, well, actually, we're going to use a poll. Let's see, for this poll first activity. My apologies. Okay. So, which of the 13 guiding principles do you think we might focus on the most in your school to help combat the effects of systemic inequalities? So the poll is shown below. Thank you, Keisha. So we'll take a few moments for you to respond to the poll. Which guiding principle do you think you should focus on the most in your school? So this first model is under the Educate for Equity category, specifically the activity discussing systemic inequalities. And I was supposed to tell you that the poll was put in the chat instead of the Padlet. My apologies for that. And then we will discuss the results. So it looks like restorative justice was the guiding principle that was the most to be focused on in a class or a school. Would anyone like to unmute and share why they chose restorative justice? One of you 5 individuals? I will assume that the majority of our campuses with restorative justice wanting having empathy for others, understanding why something happens in the building and trying to restore the harm that has occurred is paramount to the functioning of our school buildings and the safety and welfare of our students, as well as the adults in the building. Anyone else would like to chime in? Now is the time before we pivot to the second activity for modeling.
I guess because restorative justice helps to engage in conversation and get, the community to acknowledge basically what, the pain, or, really take action on preparing and take responsibility. So it really is a tool that engage people in conversation and impacts their empathy and understanding and build up community.
Yes, thank you for sharing. I can't see your name, but I really appreciate your response. You mentioned conversation, having the community to acknowledge the pain, talk about taking action, what solutions. And I think, in looking at today's time, this week in particular, those are all things that we need to be doing on a regular basis now more than ever. And so, yes, to me, restorative justice is something that we really need to uplift everywhere. Thank you for sharing again. All right, we will move on to the second model. This second activity is under the Building Community Connections category in the Democracy Action Card, and is specifically discussing a day of action. So now we will need the Padlet link in the chat. There we go. And I want you to think, if you could partner with a local organization to host a day of action in your school community, what would this day of action look like? And what theme would it have? So I'm going to give you a moment to click into that Padlet. I can see it on my screen. So host a panel, a day of action is in green. In the Padlet. And so you will click on that link to add your comments. So day of action right here, you can add your comments. What would it entail? I would love to see what your day of action would look like. Okay, so the first one I see is Laurel, thank you. She would like to partner with UROR, Utah Rooting Out Racism, but not sure on the details. Understand that, yeah. But it's great that you have a partner organization already in mind, and then you can figure out the logistics later. But I just want to get you thinking, what would this day of action look like? What would be the theme of it? Who would it involve? What are you hoping for your students to get out of it? So any of that. We have about 3 more minutes. I would love to see a few more ideas from any of you.
And Shalene, I think the ones that are in white were the additions added. So Emily added fishbowl discussion, and it looks like Victoria added multidisciplinary DEI project.
Okay, wonderful. So for Emily, what organization or what partner, tell me more about this fishbowl discussion. What would be the topic? Oh, Luke and Lena, thank you for sharing. Check the chat. Oh, okay, Luke. All 8 wards of DC talking about gentrification? Yes,
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I realize that there are definitely wards that have been more impacted, so maybe we try to get more representatives from particular wards, but yeah, I think that would be really interesting. In 5th grade, we study people experiencing homelessness, so we get into gentrification a bit in DC, and it happens in particular areas more so, or it has in historically, but I do think it would be really interesting to just learn about sort of how different wards have changed over time.
Yes, I love that. We may need to, excuse me, we may need to connect after
Hey,
that.
sounds good.
Okay. Hosting affinity-based circles for staff. Lena, I love that. Lisa, partnering with the Urban League, student voter registration. I've done something similar with voter registration. Would love to talk more about that. Inspired teaching, speak truth, yes, in DC. So partnering with them. Intergenerational symposium, student framed panel and community identification of 3 to 5 call to actions. I love that. Again, affinity group spaces. The juvenile justice system, wonderful, wonderful. So I want you all to see how this card could be utilized, not just with teachers, but also with your students, utilizing voice and choice. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you for those of you who participated. You can still do so. We're just going to move on for time's sake. I want to give you the next 7 minutes to reflect on the Democracy Action Card. So you're clicking around, looking in it, thinking about how you could tailor this card to your school community or whatever community you represent. Or how could you create a similar card using student-facing activities? So looking at those two questions, I want you to just silently reflect to yourself. I'm going to give you 7 minutes. I'm going to stop talking. If you have something in the chat you need to put in, I'll try to respond to it. But 7 minutes starting now. Okay, so now that you have reflected individually, I want to provide a space for you to voice the connections that the card makes to your school or your community, or how you envision the cards contributing to your community. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes to discuss with other participants by putting you into a breakout room. And there will be 2 guiding questions to focus on for your discussion. So what opportunities do you foresee when using the action card at your school or community? Or what issues do you foresee when using the action card at your school? Well, welcome back to the main room, everyone. Now as a whole group, I am hoping that we can discuss some of the connections, visions, questions, or concerns that you have for the Democracy Action Card. Keep in mind that it hasn't been used. This is more like a pilot situation. So I want to hear your thoughts about the card. So I'm learning with and from you. So feel free to use the chat, or you can unmute and let's listen and respond. Who would like to go first?
Yeah, how's it going? I'm Nicholas. So the one that stuck out to me was the build community connections, in which you get like a community panel discussion. Because I plan on working with the juvenile justice system, and I know like it's a big thing that they're trying to like get certain people to come and visit and talk about them. So like I don't want to get like what they usually do, like get like a rapper or someone to come, and I'm gonna get someone that's like more um into like their community and like things like that. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, and you could be very strategic in the people that you invite in to talk with the students in your juvenile justice system. So I think that would be wonderful.
Exactly, Dr. Warren, exactly.
Okay. Who else? Let me pull up the chat just in case. What are some concerns that you may have for the card in your school, your classroom? I know I tried to pop into a few rooms, and so I heard a lot of talk. And then one lady in particular was saying how this is ongoing. It's not just a week. There's no way that you can possibly, it'll be very hard with our curriculum already, the parameters around it, to try to have 5 tasks of these done. But imagine how you could stretch this out, week, month, semester, how you could really utilize this and being real intentional about creating the opportunities on the card that will be reflective of the interests and concerns of your school students or of your teachers if you're using it for teachers. But yeah, it's an easy to use template. That's my plan. I'm hoping it's like that. I hope you can see that. But again, this is really for feedback. Okay, I see some things in the chat. Okay. Inspired teaching, curiosity in 2025. Curious and open-minded, comfortable with being uncomfortable. Yes. Oh, good. I hope you all can use this framework. That's wonderful. Thank you, Michelle.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi, I'm Layla Allen. In my group, we talked about the difficulties of just implementing it, just because sometimes in schools you have a wide range of beliefs among the teachers. So even then, you won't get full participation with implementing the sheet. So, but what we talked about was like kind of in alignment with the second question, which was just getting students to kind of participate more, and like the teachers being just motivators and support for students. And then along with kind of what Nicholas was saying, was having students work with like community members to kind of put together activities or kind of initiate the the participation of the worksheet.
okay, yeah. So I could definitely see maybe conducting a poll with your students or a survey to find out what their interests are, who they want to work with, what issues they feel are pressing in their community, and then tweak the democracy action card based on that. I love that. And then teachers being motivators, yes, I feel like with almost all teachers, well, I honestly think every teacher, there's some way that you can embed this into your classroom. It may only be where they're doing one or two activities, or just one, but you could definitely utilize this. And I think really focusing in on their interests and their concerns is paramount for this. Whole faculty work. That is actually what I'm working with one of my directors at my school to do. I actually have a instructional coach card that I'm developing, and then through the instructional coaches, they're going to work with their teams based on the interests and concerns of their particular content area. So I'm doing a version of that. We'll see how it works. Wish me luck, because you know how teachers are. Yeah. Yes. Black joy. Anyone else? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat.
I just want to say that I really appreciate this workshop with all the different tools and ideas that you have offered. So thank you.
You are welcome. I really want to, I mean, this is a part of my doctoral studies. This is what I do anyway. And I want to make it easier for all of us. But I also want our students to really get, to be empowered. And you can only do that through teachers, making sure that teachers are empowered. And so that's the focus of this.
You all could just unmute and share your gratitude to Shalina and yourselves for being part of this workshop. We'd appreciate it. So feel free to unmute.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank
you.
So much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.